Welcome to the TK Show with the Athletic Bay Area's editor-in-chief, Tim Kawakami.
Hey everybody, Tim Kawakami here, TK Show, recording from Kawakami Studios. Now, you know that by now. This is where we record. We just get the good sound. I also think Ben Cruz, my producer, just likes it here for some reason. But just really glad to have on as my guest. I've had him on before in a previous incarnation. Always good to have him on. He's in Wisconsin right now. He's on the farm. My friend, you know him obviously as a longtime Giants broadcaster, Duane Kuiper. Duane, how are you doing in Wisconsin right now?
All right, let me set the setting for you.
Yes,
all right?
please do.
The farm is abandoned.
Oh no.
We had an auction this past Saturday to get rid of a lot of the stuff that my dad had in numerous different sheds.
Yep.
We had 4 grain silos on the farm, and if you hear noise in the background, they're in the process of taking those down.
Wow.
And I'm sitting in one of his old sheds in an old car seat that somebody jerked out of the back of a car. Because if I go into the house, it sounds like a haunted house if we're doing it in the house.
Yeah.
So I'm in the garage, and I'm looking at, I used to hang a basketball hoop up in this garage and shoot buckets. And so you end up coming here, and there's just 1,000 memories that just kind of fly by. And in a lot of ways, it's good. And in some ways, it's always sad to see a farm go.
Yeah, so are you going to hold on to this, or are you going to sell it?
It is in the process of being sold. And it's been kind of a long process, but it's not officially a done deal, so we're just kind of waiting for it to be a done deal.
Wisconsin's always been such a big part of you. Are you going to be able to get back there, or do your kids want to make sure there's some Wisconsin still left and somewhere for you to go in Wisconsin?
Well, I have a sister and nieces and nephews and cousins, and both my mom and my dad have all of their families. Mm-hmm. They're still in this area. So coming back is something that we will always do. I wish my kids could come back more often, but when you have jobs and you're in your late 20s and 30s trying to pay rent, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do.
Yep.
So, but when they can, they do come back, and we encourage that, obviously, because this is where it all started for me.
Yep. Yeah, just the idea of you in Wisconsin makes so much sense. It feels right, and I'm sure you know that slightly better than me. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the Giants, the 24-26. About what you would have expected, or is this team kind of like maybe one of those hover around 500 Giants teams and see what they can do in August and September? Is that what it feels like this season?
Well, it feels like that, Tim, because of what has happened so early when it comes to injuries. And, I get it. I mean, all teams have injuries. Across the board, especially in the National League West, we're seeing just injury after injury. But it is kind of a crusher when you lose your best pitcher and one of the top 5 pitchers, maybe in the major leagues. And it's a guy that you just count on. Mm-hmm. You count on him every 5th day, and sometimes you count on him more than that, because he could do something extraordinary, like come off the bench, hit a home run, pitch in relief. So when you lose that guy, it's going to hurt. And then after 4 or 5 starts, you lose your number 2 guy in Johnny Cueto. And then even at that point, Samardzija was banged up. So it's a long-winded answer of saying mixing and matching with young guys that you think might be ready, maybe not, as your starters. Yeah, I think they're pretty happy with the record that they have, given the fact that I also thought that when Mac Williamson showed up, it was going to make a huge difference, and it did. Mm-hmm. For about a week, it did. And then, you get the unfortunate tumbling down the left field line. So, yes, 2 games under 500. Everybody else in the league right now is just major scuffling. So take that record and forget about what happened in Houston. That's just a bad matchup for the Giants.
Yep.
That team. And just keep on going because you got a chance to steal this division.
Oh, no, the Dodgers certainly aren't. Yeah, they're ahead of the Dodgers. Are only a couple of games behind the Rockies, and maybe one and a half, whatever. They're behind Arizona, who are both tumbling. Do you? I mean, Bumgarner's maybe 3 weeks away? Something like that generally?
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I know that a lot of fans are just assuming that Cueto is going to be back. I think we have to keep our fingers crossed that he's going to be back.
Yeah.
So, get him back. You have to get Samardzija on track, and then keep your fingers crossed on Cueto. Mac Williamson may be in Chicago for this upcoming series. If that's the case, that's a good thing. And then Joe Panik and Henson are not that far behind. So, I think things are looking up injury-wise, but you still have to keep that finger in the dike. And I said it the other day, you can only do that for so long before it's going to leak. And you got to get these guys back before it starts to leak too much.
What do you think about this 13-man pitching staff? There's been a lot of commentary about it that hey, when their starters are going 4 innings, I understand why they would want the extra arm,
right.
But it really does shorten that bench. Are they going to go with 13 until Bumgarner starts going 7 innings every game?
Well, I think, Tim, until the starters start to show signs that they can go more than 4 or 5. I think you have to protect yourself unless you want Pablo Sandoval to be your 13.
Yeah. 14.
You have to protect yourself with that number of pitchers on your staff. I agree. I think it's hard to play short, but Suarez, look, the guy's first year in the big leagues. Stratton was good for a little while. Now league's starting to adjust. Derek Holland has been okay. So, Ty Block, I love when Ty Block starts because 2 things are going to happen. One, he's going to be great or he's going to be out early. And I love the way he pitches, and I think he's going to be really good. So, but when you're dealing with trying to play these teams that are really, really good, you need a little bit more veteran experience in that starting rotation. And right now, the only guy they got is Samardzija and Derek Holland, but I don't really count him as much because he hasn't been around that long in a Giants uniform.
We'll talk a little bit about Brandon Belt. Obviously had a great last few weeks and has been the Giants' best hitter. But, we still hear it from fans, or we still maybe even a little bit, some of the Giants would like him to be a little more aggressive and not take those call strike threes. Is this over? Brandon Belt's just a really good player, or you think there's still something like he could do a little bit more, be a little bit more aggressive at the plate?
Well, here's what I've come to conclusion as far as my opinion about Brandon Belt, and it's been over the years a lot like what the fans' opinion has been. He could be better. I don't like his body language when he walks back to the dugout when he strikes out, takes too many pitches. I would rather see him swing for the fences and take a walk. And I've been through all of that, Jim, and so have a lot of my broadcast partners and a lot of my friends. But I'm done with that. And I think it's time that I just, in my mind, leave the guy alone and let him be who he is. And who he is a guy that's going to have a really good on-base percentage, and he's going to probably lead your team in maybe home runs and RBIs, and he may hit between 280 and 320. Well, that's not bad.
Yep.
So I think my point is for me, I now have to make sure that I leave this guy alone and just let him be who Brandon Belt is and not want him to be somebody else. Well, he could be. No, he's not. He's going to be Brandon Belt. He's going to take a lot of pitches, and sometimes they're going to be a called third strike. And then I'm going to let him be who he is because he's a great defender. He's got a good arm. And if he wants to look like somebody just shot his dog after he struck out looking and walks back, and that's who he is. Let him be like that. Not everybody can be the guy that takes the bat and chews up the water cooler and breaks every helmet in the helmet rack. Not everybody can do that. He's not one of those guys. So I'm going to leave him alone.
Anybody you played with or played against that kind of reminds you of that? Maybe you're not sure where he is, but at some point you just got to accept where the numbers are every year.
I mean, I thought about that, and he is such a unique guy that I can't think of anybody. The fact that he got thrown out the other day, and I don't know, maybe he didn't get thrown out, but he said something about the umpires.
Yep.
What probably wasn't smart for him to do it, but I thought it was great because it showed people that he does care about what's going on. Mm-hmm. And sometimes body language-wise, you don't show it, but you have to show it in another way, and I thought he did. And I know he got a slap on the wrist. Maybe he even got fined, but that's it. I'm gonna leave him alone.
Have you ever talked to him about any of this, just kind of generally about the perception of him or anything sort of like this?
If I ever did what?
Talk to Brandon. Talk to Belt. Just, hey,
No, you know what? The thing that you have to do with Brandon Belt is you have to stop and engage some type of a conversation with him. And he will stop, and he will look you in the eye. And if it's a serious conversation, he'll be serious. If you're messing with him, he'll mess with you back. But you have to initiate it because he'll walk right by you and maybe just nod his head. But if you stop him and you initiate stuff, he's great. And actually, it was Javier Lopez that told me that you have to make an effort to do that, and that way you get to see his personality.
We're going to take a quick break to talk about our friends at Indochino. Indochino is the world's largest made-to-measure menswear company and has been featured in major publications, including GQ, Forbes, and Fast Company. They make suits and shirts made to your exact measurements for a great fit. No more generic off-the-rack suits that fit you like a fancy poncho. Guys love the wide selection of high-quality fabrics and the option to personalize all the details, including your lapel, your lining, and your monogram. Here's how it works. Visit a showroom or shop online at Indochino.com. Pick your fabric, choose your customizations, submit your measurements, and wait for your custom suit to arrive in just a few weeks. This week, TK's listeners can get any premium Indochino suit for just $379 at Indochino.com when you enter the promo code TK at checkout. That's 50% off the regular price for a made-to-measure premium suit. Plus, shipping is free. So, go to Indochino.com, enter promo code TK for any premium suit for just $379 and free shipping. Get an incredible deal for a suit that will fit you better than anything off the rack ever could. Now, back to the TK show.
How do you think this outfield's going to shake out? They turned it over a little bit this season, and now you got Gorkys Hernandez in center field. You still have the question in left. Do you think it's going to end up maybe Williamson in left and Gorkys in center pretty much every day?
Yeah, I do. I mean, look, Bruce Bochy, occasionally we ask for my opinion, and occasionally I will offer it without him asking. and I think that the guy that deserves to start every day in center field is Gorkys Hernandez. Mm-hmm. And maybe in a month the league figures him out, and he's not doing as well as we think. Well, that's fine. You wrote him out for a while, and I do believe that Mac Williamson is going to be the real deal. I do, and I think you're going to get as much as you can out of Andrew McCutchen, and I mean he's still a really good player, and occasionally you'll see the MVP McCutchen, and sometimes you won't. But he still really is a good player. I think that's how it's going to shape out once Williamson gets back. And then you got to figure out, what are you going to do with Hunter Pence? And if you ask me what are they going to do, I don't have a clue.
Yep.
And I'm not sure they have a clue. And then so Gregor Blanco and Austin Jackson are your two outfielders, and then you go from there.
Well, that's where that 13th pitcher, right? There's some of that is you can't hold on to extra outfielders who don't play center field if you got 13 pitchers. That's kind of the math.
That's
problem.
correct.
Yep.
And then the only thing you can do is if you get Alan Hansen back, if you want to make a move in the outfield, come up with a strange injury for a couple of guys, maybe you can consider Vince an infielder outfield / infielder outfielder, because he's pretty valuable to have on the team.
Yep. You mentioned Javier Lopez, and obviously you got Javier Lopez, you got Jeremy Affeldt doing a lot of games now. When you were working with them some of the times, or a lot of times, sometimes I think, man, they're really feeling it. They're right in this. Sometimes, obviously, they're new. They're just getting into it. What things do you tell them as a player moving into the booth? Maybe do this more and maybe do this a little bit less.
Well, the first thing I usually tell them, and I use this with Affeldt more than Lopez, and when I was thinking about getting really heavily involved in the broadcasting, I read John Madden's first book that he wrote, and he started talking about broadcasting. And he said one thing in that book that stuck with me, and has stuck with me ever since, and it was very simple. He said, be good before you try to be funny. In other words, if you go into the booth and just try to be funny, people aren't going to take you serious. You're going to be funny, and then you're going to break down a guy's curveball. People are going, well, is he being funny now, or is he being serious? So that's basically the first thing I tell people. And more so with Affeldt, because that's his nature.
Yep.
Not so much with Lopez, because I tell people all the time, his father was an FBI agent, allegedly, and his mom was a teacher, like a principal. So he's going to be prepared when he walks into the booth. That's just in his DNA. It's just the way it is. Affeldt, on the other hand, is more, he's going to fly by the seat of his pants. And both things work. And I think that the one thing that Affeldt probably needs to do is prepare a little bit more. And the one thing that Lopez needs to do is loosen up a little bit. So Lopez needs a little bit of Affeldt, and Affeldt needs a little bit of Lopez. Yeah. But I do believe that both those guys have a chance. Look, they're not going to be Mike. And anybody that on Twitter or social media, if any tries to compare these guys with Mike, don't do it.
Yep.
You can't do it because Mike's just an original. He's the best, and let these guys be themselves, but yet just go about your job like the pro.
I think the big picture here is it's another reminder that this stuff isn't easy. And I'm not just saying it because I'm talking to you, but anybody walking into that booth, if you're trained professional for years, or you're a former player, or you're a former manager, no matter who you are, it's not easy to go on the air and start talking about baseball. It just isn't.
Well, no, it's not. And there's another thing too, Tim, that is happening now with especially local broadcasters, not national broadcasters where they go out and they get the A-Rods and Aaron Boone's, and they get those guys. Local broadcasters, especially the color analysts, are usually players on teams, that they've been associated with for a long time. Well, the players now, they don't need these jobs because of the amount of money they made during their careers.
Yep.
The great example is F.P. Santangelo. He needed to do this because he didn't make the money that these other guys did. Consequently, he does 150 games for the Nationals. Mm-hmm. And there aren't enough of those guys around to fill these spots. The Phillies have 4 different analysts, and they split them up throughout the course of the season. Well, maybe that's great, and maybe it's the only way they can do it because none of these guys want to do 150 games. So if you can get your hands on a guy that's good and wants to do all the games, now you got something really special. But I just don't think that that's going to happen anymore. You're going to see more guys want to do 45, 50, 60. They don't want to work the 4th of July. They want to barbecue. And maybe Memorial Day, they want to take that day off too. Well, that doesn't fly. If you're going to do this, you have to do it. And that's what I try to explain to these guys.
Yeah, I just think that it's the relationship with the viewer is built over all that time. I really do believe that the viewer, or the listener, or however we're going to describe them, and when you kind of shift people in and out, they have some relationship, but it's the relationship is broken, every time they don't do it. That's why baseball is the announcer's game. It's because you're there every day. And geez, you know what?
It is.
I'm not thinking about baseball, but I'll flip on the broadcast, and there you are again. It's
right.
that.
Well,
connection.
no, I mean, in a lot of ways, we know that we're part of the family. Mike and I get this especially from, women who husbands travel a lot or they work a lot, and we get this all the time. And they'll say, "You know what? You two speak to me more than my husband does." And look, it's not an insult to the husband. He's not around a lot. And it's just a compliment to baseball that it's an everyday sport, and we're in their homes all the time. And, I tell this all the time, too, is when I'm out in public, the first thing people ask is, well, where's Mike?
Yep.
Well, they think that we live together. And they think that we go out to dinner every night and that we're having coffee in the morning and eating breakfast together. And that's their perception. And that's the way they want it to be, and I think that that's fine. As a matter of fact, I think we enjoy that.
Well, on the road, it is almost like that, right? You're having breakfast with them, or you're walking around. Give us on these road trips now when you're with him. What's a day like? What's a day of a game like for Duane Kuiper?
Well, I'll tell you what it was like. 20 years ago, and what it's like now. 20 years ago. Longer than that, 25, 30 years ago, we would eventually meet at whatever coffee shop was the closest. It was usually the Starbucks because there's so many of them. And we would kill an hour and a half, 2 hours. Newspapers back then, and now with social media and all the other stuff you can get on your, and maybe even actually look at the Athletic online.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, of course. Yeah. Not 25 years ago, but yes, I like the idea of it.
Maybe. But now, and then back then, we would take a walk and certainly have lunch, not take a nap, and he'd play his guitar. And the only problem I had with that is if our rooms were had adjoining walls, I'm trying to take a nap while he's upstairs playing a guitar. It doesn't work. We get on the bus one day, and he said, "How was your nap?" I go, I didn't. I said, "There's a Nimrod in the room next to me playing his guitar."
Lullabies. Go ahead.
Story. But now it's different because agility-wise, he can't move around, and he doesn't really leave the hotel until he gets on the bus to go to the ballpark. So if we have any hang time, it's usually lunch at the hotel, or if it's a special occasion, he'll grab a cab and we'll meet somewhere for lunch or get a golf cart. But I will say this, and I know that you talked to him recently. All the teams that he visits in the National League West are very accommodating. There's a golf cart that waits for him when he gets off the bus. The golf cart takes him right to the elevator. They do that after the games. They take him back, and it makes it enjoyable for him to still do games on the road.
Yep.
And we need him on the road because he's such an important part of Giants baseball that we just need him to stay on his feet.
Yep. And I don't want to get too much into his thinking, but I think it was a little bit of a step for him just to ask for or need those things. Like he didn't want people to have to accommodate him, but they're going to,
right?
Because they want to.
So
right?
Yeah. So you know what? And we knew that, so we asked.
Yep.
And then it was a lot easier for him to accept it once we asked, and now he doesn't have any problems asking and dealing with it. And there are just certain parts that it's Dodger Stadium's really hard for him, and he's going to continue to try to go to Dodger Stadium. Wrigley Field is impossible.
Yep.
So anyway, but he never complains. He's a great friend, and I just admire him the way he's handled all of this.
Absolutely. And anytime you hear him, with you two guys together, it's Giants baseball. It's just that's again I don't go for the mushy stuff where I'm piling on compliments to everybody unless it's really really something I feel. And Kruk and Kuip on Giants baseball is just part of this. It's part of the fabric, part of them. It's part of Bay Area. It's part of the sport in general, and I know people value that. And I hope they do. That's one thing. I hope we understand what this is brought to everybody. And I can't believe I just said all that to you, Duane, with you on the phone and everything. But I do feel it, and I think we all appreciate it. So let's get off of that.
Well, I appreciate that sitting in my old shed here on the farm.
There you go. That's why I'm saying it, because you brought these warm, rustic memories to me of my days on the farm in Burlingame, California. I'll leave this with the question I asked everybody. I'm sure I've asked you this before. You can come up with a different place or repeat something or expand on the one you said before. Duane, what's your favorite restaurant?
My favorite restaurant, look, there's a lot of them that we get a chance to go to. And what's amazing is you reach a certain age and you can't pronounce or remember a lot of them. But there's one in Lafayette that I like. It's called Cooper Ridge. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's in a great little area in Lafayette. And it turns out that we have a lot of Giants players that live in that area. I bet you we're over 10 or 12.
Yep.
Bosa's been there for a while.
I was going to say, the catcher's been out there for a little while, yeah.
Yeah, and that whole Lafayette, and you get into Walnut Creek now, and it's almost like a big city.
Yep.
And there are tons and tons of great restaurants in Walnut Creek as well. But the Yacht Club is really great in Walnut Creek. We go there all the time. The list goes on and on. The guy that knows the city and in and out is Mike. He lives in the city during the season.
Yep.
And he at least tries a different restaurant every homestand. So he's my go-to guy. And I tell players, Tony Watson found out that he lived in the city, and I said, you need to go to Mike and Blake Fleming. They both live in the city. They will hook you up on where to go.
I hear from the Giants guys in the city, it's Kokari. That's the one I keep hearing from them. That's I know. Fleming's. That's his place, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's really close to Gambiano. I think.
Yep.
I think. Who knows?
It's all true if you say it, obviously. Well, listen, it's been great as always. Enjoy the farm. Always good talking to you. And let's get some Giants baseball on the air pretty soon.
You know what? There's some really exciting things going on in the Bay Area. The Niners look like they're really going to be fun to watch.
Yep.
Can't wait. And of course, we're keeping a close eye on what's going on with the Warriors. So all in all, good stuff. And I appreciate what you do too, Tim. I think the whole new athletic and all the good stuff, I think it's great. So keep it going.
Appreciate that, Kuip. And as always, appreciate your friendship, your conversations. And great to have you on the show. Thanks.
All right. You bet, Tim.
Everybody, that's a TK show for today. Thank you, Duane Kuiper. We'll